by date. For our cabinet, we have 3 of these, and we originally bought ours from overstock.com, and it was quite a bit less expensive. I went on overstock.com a few days ago, and currently they're not selling it. But this from PBS is pretty much exactly what we have. So it's a CD or DVD storage cabinet. The old seed library cabinets, we could not find any. I think they're phenomenally popular for folks to buy. So see, if you're looking for ideas, CD or DVD storage fits seed. That setup is great for seed envelopes. So our first year, we bought 1. Our second year, we bought a second cabinet. Our third year, we bought a third cabinet. So we have 1 cabinet for vegetable seeds, 1 for herb seeds, and 1 for flower seeds. And my ideal is that in a year or 2, we buy a 4th cabinet for grain. So where on campus do you think it's best to locate your seed library? Would it be somewhere where admissions are? Would it be the library? After discussing, we decided that the library would be the best place to put our seed library. And again, it's really important to have a good relationship with your librarian. You're really asking a lot to have a project that you're doing be in their space. And fortunately, we have had really, really great supportive librarians over the past 4 years. One thing about this cabinet, since we're toddlers through 8th grade, and I'm sure those of you have interacted with young children, they like to climb things. So when we realized safety-wise, we had to have our cabinets bolted to the wall, just because if something could happen, you might as well be on the safe side and make sure everything is safe. So the cabinets are securely bolted into the wall. What we did in the beginning was we had almost exclusively donations from seed companies. So we would take the seed packets, we would redistribute seeds from 1 packet into several of our school seed envelopes. The thing is that you lose a lot of information when you do this. So middle schoolers came up with the idea that we would save the empty seed packets, we would organize them by type of plant, and then create a little binder or bind them on the side. So on the upper left-hand side, we had, I think, 6 types of melon seeds. So when a person went to open up a drawer, pull out, look through the melon seeds, if they wanted to get more information on that melon seed, they could go up to that little booklet, flip through it, and read information on it. There's a challenge there in that eventually, as we move more towards seeds that are collected from members of our community, how we're able to transfer that information since we won't have these commercial seed packets. Okay, next question is when? When are you imagining your seed library will be open? Will it be solely during school hours, before and after school hours, during the summer? Is that an option to have it open then so staff members can access it as well? I'm going to talk briefly about a way of monitoring the seed envelopes that ties into the when question. So what we had originally done was created the seed envelopes, filled the drawers, and I was thinking that once a month I could go through and do a count just to see where we were on quantity of each of the seed envelopes. And a middle schooler, when I mentioned this, a middle schooler, I thought, oh, one of my middle school students thought this was ridiculous. And he said, well, they're in a library, so why don't we barcode all of the seed envelopes so that when students check out the envelopes, they go to the librarian's desk, the librarian scans the seed envelopes. The one issue is that those seeds are not expected to be returned right now. We're still in the first couple of years of our seed library, given that we're toddlers through 8th grade. Right now, the push is for us to get seeds into people's hands. In a couple of years, when people are comfortable with growing, then I would eventually like to get into saving seed and bringing it back. But for right now, our motivation is to get people into the garden, to get people planting things from seed. So we did start barcoding our seeds, and it took a very long time barcoding each individual packet. But that's how in the beginning, we were able to track how many seed envelopes were taken out. If you don't have something like that, you do run the risk of not knowing if how many seed packets are being taken out at a time. So you definitely have to have much more physical monitoring of the seed library to see the condition it's in. Okay, so, and I just talked about this, so why do you want a seed library? Do you want it so that people in your community can grow a lot of food? Do you want it so that you can eventually fill the seed library with seeds that are specific for your area that you live in? Or like we are right now, our focus is the push to get seeds into people's hands, to get people comfortable with seeds from toddlers through 8th grade, families and staff. And then how are you going to run your seed library? Where are you going to get the money from? So how will you raise money? How will you get seed donations and donations from community members? And expenses include, if you choose to do the cabinets, seed envelopes, labels, and then eventually making printed material. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get the importance of getting involvement with your seeds. All right, and then COVID. So we do not allow parents on campus, as many schools follow the same procedure now. So what middle school students, talking about this, how to make our seed library accessible. We have all these seeds and we have this population that's so interested in gardening, and how do we make that connection? So we have had middle school students work on creating a website. So it's a Jot form. We're using Jot form because our business office uses Jot form a lot. And we have been transferring all of the information of the variety of seeds that we have, the number of seed packets. We've been transferring all of that onto our Jot form database. And it is, I'll be honest, it is taking a long time. But it's also a great way when it goes live that parents can check out seeds, and during car line that we can either run seed packets to them or give seed packets to their children during the school day so that they can take them home. All right, so I've talked about the logistics of starting up and maintaining a seed library. What I would like to talk about is how to get as many people interested in the seed library. So getting people interested about seeds. So for the next little while, I'm going to talk about how I get involved and other teachers get involved with different program levels to get students interacting with seeds. Several years ago, I attended grain school at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and it was 3 days of talking about, learning about, and tasting grains. And it was phenomenal. And I think it was on the second day, there was a display of different types of corn. And I had seen pictures of glass gem corn in magazines and in the news, but this was the first time I actually got to see it in person and hold it in my hand. And it was such a phenomenal event. I mean, just looking at this corn, the variety of colors, it's breathtaking. And for me, it also this huge impact of the history, the work, the hands, the generations, all of the involvement in order for this corn to make it to us, to make it to this class so that I could actually see it. It was phenomenal. Afterwards, I was so enthusiastic about it. I mean, I was talking to everyone. I was showing everyone this picture on my phone. I mean, like neighbors were walking away because they knew like, oh God, like saying she's gonna talk about glass gem corn again. But this is the kind of enthusiasm that's really important to share with your students so that they can also see just how truly phenomenal seeds are, and the phenomenal amount of culture, of history, of farming, of food that with each seed. So I realized I need to incorporate seed work throughout the school. You can have this beautiful seed library set up, but if people aren't visiting it and aren't checking out seeds, then there's a problem. So in our toddler program, we have 3 raised beds. this is really great to have the toddlers plant carrot seeds in the spring and corn as well. We also do potato eyes. And then in the fall, the toddlers harvest and they have a stone soup project. So they read the book and what they harvest, they bring into the classroom and then they make stone soup using the potatoes and carrots. And this is a great way, like you get them when they're toddlers. All right, so primary. So this is a Montessori school. We have mixed age classrooms. So primary is 3 to 6-year-olds. Primary students love seed sorting. They can do this for hours. So here it looks like I've got calendula, bean, marigold. I'm sure if that's hollyhock or not. Primary also, we have them involved in dry seed saving. So 3 beds we have for the toddler program, and then we have 5 raised beds near the primary playground. So we do dry seed saving and wet seed saving. So the dry seed saving is students getting dried bean pods, bringing them into the classroom and breaking them open and saving the bean seeds. We've also taken a tarp in the playground, had the students put the dried bean pods in the tarp. You fold the tarp over and then just have the students stomp on it. And it is so much fun to do that. You unfold the tarp and then the students go in and handpick all the bean seeds out. Physical activity is great. The wet seed saving is one of the most popular things with the primary classrooms. Students harvest tomatoes and they squeeze tomatoes so the gelatinous material and the seeds go into a bowl. We add a lot of water and then we ferment the tomato seeds. And the primary students, when we did this 2 years ago, I would get daily updates from primary students on how it was going in terms of the mold layer on top of the tomato seeds. And then at the end, we would remove the mold. We would pour off the liquid at the top and any seeds that went to the top. The seeds at the bottom we saved, we dried. Once they're fully dried, the students then packaged and put into the seed library. Another activity is making seed paper. So even with just a couple of flower plants, when you let them go to seed, you can get a huge amount of flower seeds. So here, students learn how to use a blender, take shredded paper that came from the business office, and then how to pour it on a screen. These seed screens are super easy to make, and then to sprinkle flower seeds on top. And then the students can either cut the seed paper into fun shapes, they can bring it home and plant it in their garden. Another primary project we did was prediction. So bringing math in, predicting, we have 5 types of seeds. We're gonna put them in wet paper towel in a Ziploc bag. We're gonna tape it up to the window, and students, right when we set up this project, students would say which seed they thought would germinate first. So, and then every day watching to see of the seeds, which seed ended up germinating first. Then we're gonna go to lower elementary. So again, mixed age classroom, so 1st through 3rd grade. The lower elementary students used a corn huller to remove dried kernels from the cob. And some classrooms sorted the kernels by color and some ground the kernels into flour. We also have made seed balls using blanket flower seeds, clay, and compost. And then those students bring those seed balls home and plant them. We also, for lower L, this is a great opportunity to spend time outside. So here I am with some students and we're looking at hollyhock. And this is such a great example in the fall so that they can observe the stages of seed development. So they can see some flowers are still blooming, some flowers have dried petals, some have unripe seed heads, which they're still green, and some have ripe seed heads. It is great. You can harvest one seed head, bring it back to the classroom, open it up, and then students can count how many seeds just come from that one flower. Students got really excited in lower L about seeds, which is great. One day I was working a shift in the cafeteria and a student was eating an apple and she was so excited. She spit the seeds into her hand and she came up to me saying, "Miss Lexi, here's some apple seeds," which of course I reacted, very excited that we were, she was saving apple seeds. It's just so interesting how students react to this as they're learning information about plants and seeds and how they can take it to incorporate into their life. Seed germination is also good to do with lower elementary students. So saying we're starting with 10 lemon cucumber seeds, wet paper towel, Ziploc bag, and then however many days later, 8 days later, counting how many of the seeds that we started with germinated, learning about germination rate. All right, now we're going to talk about upper elementary, which is 4th and 5th graders. This is when students are introduced to hydroponics. So hydroponics is growing plants without soil. These right here are called grow media. So these are basil seedlings in rock wool. It's one of the grow media. We typically don't use that. We only use that in the first year. So the upper elementary, they have these 2 tower gardens. So a tower garden is a hydroponic system. So at the bottom, you'll see a reservoir. That's where the nutrient water is. And then we have this tall white cylinder in the center. So that is where nutrient water is pumped. It goes up through, shoots up through the center. It hits the cap at the top, and then it trickles down. All those plants, their roots are inside that cylinder. So those roots are having nutrient water trickle down on them. The frame around it is a structure where we can hang our grow lights. This was 6 or 7 weeks later. So the first one, we had planted seedlings. 6 or 7 weeks later, the plants are at this point. So the students had started all of those lettuce seeds in the grow media, in the classroom, under grow lights. Once they were large enough and the roots had grown through the grow media, they transplanted them into the tower garden, and then always check daily on the nutrient water to make sure that the nutrient level was right, that the pH was right. It's interesting. There's some students who love getting their hands in the soil, and there's some students who don't. And hydroponics is a really great way to get those students interested. So this is what it looks like when you pull a head of lettuce out of the tower garden. You can see this beautiful root structure at the bottom of the plant. So students were really excited about this. And the first year, we decided to celebrate this harvest following a slow food curriculum. So we had a salad dressing making class. And this was the best way I have ever seen 45 4th and 5th graders inhale greens. It was really satisfying to watch this. They experimented making salad dressings, put them on their greens, and pretty much every plate was empty by the end. The second year, the upper L students decided that they wanted to create a business. So they sold all of the heads of lettuce that they had grown in the 2 tower gardens. They sold to their parents. And then the money that they made from the sale, they voted on and decided to donate it to the Colorado Children's Hospital. They made over $300, and it was such a great experience. And to think all the ways that you can use seeds in your classrooms, even to end up with something like this. So I had a couple of 4th grade boys who I could not convince that growing lettuce from seed is one of the coolest things you can do. I could not. I mean, I tried and I tried. And we were talking, and they were talking about Venus flytraps. And I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. So I bought what I thought were Venus flytrap seeds. But I found out later they weren't. I'm not even sure what kind of seeds they were. But we started Venus flytrap seeds. And I got those 4th grade boys. They were in. They were so interested. They would check every day. Here, they're growing in coconut coir. So this happened last December, and I was so excited about this, just to get another group of people interested in gardening. And then when COVID hit, the campus closed down. The teachers, we didn't come on campus for, gosh, at least 4, maybe 5 weeks. And unfortunately, all the seedlings died. But this is something that you can do. If you have some students who just really think gardening is boring, Venus flytrap seeds. All right, and now we're going to talk to middle school. So middle school is who I probably interact with the most. So middle school is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And every spring, we have a seedling sale. So the middle school students go to the seed library. They pull out seeds that they want to start, grow, and then sell as seedlings. So right here, this is actually currently growing in the classroom. These are ground cherries. So we decided that we were going to join up with Slow Food's Share a Seed program. So if you watched Jeff in the opening talk, Jeff Quattrone, he had mentioned this about the Slow Food Share a Seed. It's a program you can contact Slow Food. They'll send these seed packets, I think 5 specific seed packages. They send them to schools. And so we are doing ground cherry, we're doing Jimmy Nardello peppers, and of course I've forgotten the other ones now. So the students start vegetable seeds, herb seeds, flower seeds, and grain seeds. And then in early May, we have a seedling sale, which is open to the entire campus. We've been doing this for 5 years. This is a picture from 2 years ago. Students take this seriously. They're really, really excited to start these seeds, to grow these seedlings, and to sell them. Like, they get really excited about it. We sell hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably upwards in the thousands of seedlings that we sell. So in the past, the seedling sale was held on campus, and most of what we grew were in 2.5-inch black plastic pots, generally sold at most seedlings $2 a seedling. And this year we are changing things up since we can't have families on the campus, so it'll be an online sale again. And this year it's great. We have a microeconomy class that's working with us, that's helping us with our marketing and our accounting. In the fall, students, middle school has a farm to table potluck. So the 5 raised beds that I had mentioned, what students do is the students will go through in the fall, they'll make a list of what they're gonna harvest from those 5 outdoor raised beds. They create a sign-up genius for families to sign up to get specific produce. The families will take home that produce, and then 2 days later, we have a potluck. And it's a fantastic community event. Families bring in, they may have taken home 5 eggplants or a pint of cherry tomatoes, and the variety of dishes that people bring in is phenomenal. And it's a great way to start conversation and just to get to know other middle schoolers and get to know other families. All right, we also one year grew amaranth. And students, when we harvested the amaranth, when the seed was ripe, let me go back a second. So we harvest a lot of seed here on campus, some of what we grow in the raised beds, and then also on campus, flowers. When we see that things have gone to seed and we're able to harvest, we'll harvest. Cleaning and processing those seeds lasts the middle schoolers a couple of months because it's a process. So here what the students are doing is they are taking the amaranth, they've crushed it, and they're putting it over a seed screen. That's the same seed screen that we used to make the seed paper. Here we're taking advantage of a windy day and pouring amaranth seed from one bucket into another with the chaff blowing away. And there is a lot of mostly clean amaranth seed, which then gets packaged and put into the seed library, which is why we need a 4th one for grains. So talking about chaff and separating the seeds from the chaff led to a conversation about wheat, which led to a conversation about bread, which led to a class on bread baking. So I teach a class on bread baking. So here, I will start the class with these 4 mason jars. So on the left, it's the wheat berries. So they've not been threshed or winnowed yet. Then the second jar is the clean wheat berries. The third is whole wheat flour, so after it's been ground. And then the right is an example of all-purpose flour. So again, from seed library, seed growing, to having a class on bread baking. And as middle schoolers here are really interested in businesses, they ended up starting a business from this. So we called it CSB, for community supported bread. and we made it available to middle school families. You could buy a share, similar to CSA's, Community Supported Agriculture. So you could buy a share of the CSB, and every week you would get 2 loaves of freshly baked bread. It was great. It was really great, the ideas that the students come up with. All right, so other ways to involve the larger part of the community are adult events. So I teach parents, both Caleb and I teach parent gardening in the spring. And I teach gardening 101, gardening 201. And this graphic right here is how I get people's attention. This is a really fantastic graphic talking about the variety of different kinds of foods, the variety of seeds that used to be sold or were in existence over a century ago. That's at the top of the graphic. And then at the bottom, how limited the number of variety of those same foods are now, just how limited our seed selection is now. And then that leads to a whole big discussion about that. We also, the last Friday, I think the National Seed Swap Day is the last Saturday of January. So we always do the last Friday of January that we do a seed swap. And this is a way to, we do have the seed library, yes, but this is a way to make connections with parents, answer questions that parents may have about starting seeds. If they have seeds that they've saved and they want to bring in, it's a great way to do that. Extracurricular activities. So Slow Food Nations is an international food festival that's hosted in Denver. It's part of the slow food movement. They got in touch with me. I did a class on making seed paper. So this is a way of doing seed work beyond the school, which is super important. 2 years ago, I presented at the Mountain West Seed Summit, which is affiliated with the Rocky Mountain Seed Alliance. And I did a presentation on what we're doing here at our school. And our social media person made this card, and it's great. So MWSS is for the Mountain West Seed Summit, plus MSD, Montessori School of Denver. Students, seeds, simple. And it is, I love that. It is, I love this card and I love that logo. All right, another thing that we do is pre-COVID, our students would travel to a nearby retirement and assisted living facility, and the students would go there one afternoon every week, anything from playing board games with the residents at this facility, sharing stories, making crafts. And so in the spring, we would have students who would get seedlings that the middle school students had started. The seeds came from the seed library. Students would bring seedlings to this retirement facility, and with the residents would plant in their 2 raised beds together. And the fantastic stories that we heard from some of the residents just about their memories of planting when they were younger and what they used to grow and what they used to grow with their family. Okay, so lessons learned, room for improvement. So these are 2 middle school students. This is just sometimes how the day ends up, is that I have my middle school students wearing butterfly wings and showing off their muscles. So, okay. So for the logistics, that hand packaging every envelope is tedious and time consuming. And some students are comfortable doing it for 15 minutes. Some can do it for half an hour. Some are bored within 2 minutes. So it's figuring out who's interested. I want to bring people in and get people excited about this. I don't want to turn people off from seeds and the seed library. We transitioned from handwriting on each of the envelopes to printing out labels a lot faster. You would just slap a label on the seed envelope and then fill it. We also ran into the issue of how many seeds per packet. So for tomato seeds, should we put 3 to 5 seeds in a packet? Or what about the germination rate? If we don't know what the germination rate is, should we make it more like 7 to 10 seeds? Lettuce seeds, people tend to sprinkle, do rows. So should lettuce seeds be more like half a teaspoon? So this is something to work out. A lot of the information, if you're getting commercial seed donations, a lot of the information is lost when you take a commercial seed packet and then all you write is the variety, the location, and the date. So saving the empty seeds, the commercial seed packets, is super important, and making that available to families so that they can get the information from there. I encouraged a lot of people to take pictures of the seed packets so they could go home and make sure that they could access that information. The barcoding system, so we had put barcodes on every envelope. We had to scan the barcodes to enter it into the database as part of the process, and that was too time consuming. I love the idea, and it was great for tracking in the beginning, but it was an amount of time that we just couldn't commit. So we are not doing the barcoding system anymore. And transitioning to online database, I'm really excited about it so that we can get the seeds to families, but it is taking a long time. It's a lot. And that's when, if you can find staff or students who really love working on the computer and are comfortable with this work, great. There is some work available for them. I will be honest, it was so frustrating last spring when there was a national seed shortage, and we had a seed library full of seeds, and I just was not sure how we could share the seeds. Where I live, we have a little free library in front of our house, and so I was just putting seed packages in there. So being creative and figuring out a way to get seeds out to people who want them. But that, like, I will never forget that last year, how frustrating that was. Room for improvement. So one thing that I'm good at is doing logistics. One thing where I have a lot of room for improvement is learning about and sharing the history of seeds, the cultures behind these seeds. That is where we have, like, that is a great need that we have. I would love someday for families to come in and share stories about seeds that they grow, plants that they grow, seeds that maybe they have saved in their family, the stories behind it, the oral history behind it. I mean, one way to really get students interested is through stories. And that is a shortcoming of mine for seeds. And that is definitely something that I would love to focus on in the future. And also expanding and working with other schools. We have other schools who are interested in creating seed libraries. And when it is safe and we are able, I would love for us to make connections and visit with other schools, help them get started up if they're in the process of starting up, share seeds that we have. I mean, it's amazing when you think about one hollyhock plant, how many seeds you can collect from that one plant. So many seeds that we need to share them with other people. And then talking with schools who do have seed libraries and hearing their stories. What's worked for them? What hasn't worked for them? What advice do they have for us? Okay, so here is contact information. So montessoridenver.org is the school website. On there is a link to the Urban Farm Program, which is where my contact information is. And then also we have an Instagram account, Montessori_farm. And there we talk about, now we're talking about the seedlings that we're growing. We had the lower elementary hatched chicken eggs 2 months ago. So previous posts cover the experiences of hatching chicken eggs and raising chicks. Okay, so I can't believe that I'm actually on time. So before I start going into the Q&A, I do want to thank you for attending. I really appreciate people taking time to attend this. The links to the recorded session will be emailed via Eventbrite in the next week. The recording will be available for 2 weeks. And again, it'd be super helpful if you could fill out the survey. That feedback is so helpful to me so that I can better adapt my presentation next time. And then also, we really want to spread the word through social media. If you use social media, hashtag Seed Library Summit, hashtag Save Share, hashtag Seed, hashtag Seed anything. Just something to get people excited about seeds and seed libraries. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to stop the share. Chris, I'm going to thank Chris, my fellow co-teacher. He is doing the chat support for me.
So Lexi, we have a couple questions.
Okay.
Some logistical ones, actually, I noticed is that initially the documentary link, the native lands link, and then also that survey were not in the chat in the beginning. I don't know if you can repost that from your end.
Yes, I can. Yes.
But the questions span from what is the info that you put on the seed envelopes? Do you have a close-up of that? I know that there was one in your slide, if you could bring that back up.
Okay, I can.
And then the other graphic question about the adult graphic that you use to hook the adults in interest, is that available somewhere?
Yes. Okay.
I'll let you field those two, and then I'll give you a couple more.
Okay, great. So if you, first what I'm going to do is post in the chat the link. Sorry about that, they didn't show up. Okay, hopefully that just showed up. Okay, the graphic for the seed envelope, we chose variety, location, year. And that was a big discussion with the middle school students about what they wanted. And that was the decision, was the variety, location where the seeds were harvested, and the year they were harvested. Oh yes, let me pull up the PowerPoint with that graphic. Okay. Whoa, this is pushing my Zoom knowledge here.
The additional questions are, how do you control cross-pollination as far as a quality control measure for your seed packets?
Okay.
And go for that.
Okay. So for cross-pollination for the seeds, so for the wet seed saving, so since tomatoes are a perfect flower, so okay, for the seed saving that we do as primary, we generally, there's 6 seeds, 6 types of plants that we aren't that concerned about for cross-pollination. And beans, so it's plants that have a perfect flower so that they self-pollinate before the flower opens up. So tomatoes, peppers, beans, wheat, I think peas, and lettuce. And so those are the ones that we focus on campus. For flowers, we collect flower seeds. There definitely may be cross-pollination happening. We haven't, we're not yet at that level of seed saving to be worried about seed saving for flowers. But for the self-pollinators, those are the ones that we do collect on campus. And we have had families bring in seed donations. The goal is eventually to have families check seeds out from the seed library, grow plants at home. Maybe if they have 10 bean plants, maybe let 2 go to seed, save seeds from those 2, bring them back in the fall, and then we repackage them. I would love eventually for a 4th cabinet for wheat, and then for the majority of the seeds to be seeds that were harvested in the greater Denver metro area, so that the seeds that we're getting are ones that we know are going to grow well here.
Excellent. The additional questions are, who cares for the gardens in the summer when students are around? And do you have a seed criteria for those that are included in the library?
Okay. Oh, I like this. All right. So yeah, this huge issue about, the garden is great and abundant during the summer and the students are gone. So in the past, we have had summer camps that have, for the 3 to 6-year-olds, that have focused on gardening. That's a way to keep them in the garden and to keep up with harvesting. We have family volunteer shifts. So pre-COVID, it was every Tuesday from 9 to 11 a.m. and families would sign up. So it'd be parents and their children would come, and Caleb and I would take turns being in the garden and teaching. And it depended, we worked on whatever was happening in the garden at that time. So if it was showing students how to collect Japanese beetles that were decimating some of our plants, or what were weeds and what were seedlings that we want to grow, how to harvest zucchini. So whatever was happening in the garden, that's what we worked on. Caleb and I would take turns throughout the summer. The raised beds are all in a drip system. So that's how they would get watered. It's tough. Our last day of school is usually the very beginning of June. And then we start up in the middle of August. So between Caleb and myself, and then we have we have a lot of admin folk who are here the whole summer, and they'll go out and keep an eye on the garden as well throughout the week. Okay, seed criteria. Right now, 95% of the seeds that we have are commercial seed donations. I've been really lucky at contacting companies and asking for donations. And I think a lot of seed companies pre-COVID were really willing and interested in sharing seeds with us. In hindsight, we do have some melon seeds that I think are 150-day varieties, where Denver, our growing season is more like 140 days. So that is something that eventually, as we learn more about the seed library and learning the best ways to run it, that is something I think we'll eventually pull, so that we're not providing seeds knowing that there's a significant chance that the plant won't produce fruit or a harvest by the time we have our first frost.
That is all the questions we have.
Okay, I'm going to stop actually, hopefully this graphic, let me see if I can blow up this graphic. So it looks like it came from the National Center for Genetic Resources Preservation. So I pulled it off of their website. Stop the share. Okay, let me take a look. All right. Do people plan to wean off seeds that they will never return, Carrot? Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, for biennials like carrots or beets or chard, I actually hadn't thought that far into the future. This is a great question and something that I will discuss with middle school students to get their feedback on. So much of what we've done and what we are doing is from feedback with middle school students. So this will be a great thing to bring up, especially during botany classes and science class. Thank you for asking that. Any cross-curriculum work? So the question is, do you do any cross-curriculum work? Art was thinking about a seed packet design project with art. I think that is fantastic. So I teach gardening. I also do practical life. And right now we're focused mostly on making fabric. So I teach weaving, knitting, crocheting, spinning. What I would love to do, we do have indigo seeds, and we have seeds for a couple of flowers that can be used for natural dyeing. And I would like to incorporate that at some point, but I need another year or two under my belt of doing that at home before I'm ready to teach that. Let's see, but yes, definitely brainstorming with the art teacher on ways of incorporating seed work is a great idea. The students do a majority of these activities during classes. I don't have curriculum plans available. I create a general guideline and follow that, but I did give my contact information, montessoridenver.org. If you want to click on there and find me under the Urban Farm Program, if you want to reach out to me, I can brainstorm on ways to share the kind of curricula that I've created. Seed greed, yes. Oh my gosh, this is one of the great things about the barcode system, was that if a student went to check out and had 50 packets of habanero seeds because they were really excited about growing hot peppers, the librarian was the one who was able to say, okay, hold on. You have 50 packets of the same variety. Have you ever eaten this? Do your parents want to grow this? Do you have space to grow this? So he was a great person at catching when that was happening. When we don't have the barcode and students are able to take seeds at will, it is an issue. Last year, I had at least 20 parents come up to me with a handful of seed packets saying, oh, I found this in my son's or my daughter's backpack, and we're going to use 2 of these, not all of these. So that is an issue. The self-serve, that was my first thought, was this is a way we could prevent people from just taking way, way, way too many seeds. But it is also easy to grab lots and lots of seed packets. And our seed library is full. And so it's visually, I think it's for people thinking, oh, it's, if I take 15 of this, maybe it's not such a big deal since this drawer is almost completely full. Seed libraries need to partner with a behavioral economist. Ooh, I like that. All right, any last questions? So you'll see around 10:47, I posted 3 links. One is to the Eventbrite if you want to buy tickets to see the documentary. One is to the survey, which I really would appreciate if people could fill that out. It's very helpful for me. I spend so much time with middle schoolers. I think sometimes my communication skills for middle schoolers gets really good, and it's good to expand and interact with more adults. And then the nativeland.ca link is also a great resource. Oh, thanks, Chris, for putting that up again. Oh, for getting in touch with me. So the school website is, let me pull that up. Okay, this is us, montessoridenver.org. That's the website for the school. When you go to that, there's a link for the Urban Farm program, and I will show up, and Caleb as well, my co-teacher. And then we are also on Instagram, Montessori_farm. And I'm gonna actually show you the first link just to remember my name. Hold on one moment. So this is me. My name is Lexi Fickenshire. All right. So Chris, I can't see the chat anymore since I'm sharing my screen. Do we have any more comments?
One question, did you give the citation for the seed variety diminishing graphic?
It was I'm gonna close this one down and go back to that citation for the organization that produced that graphic. Interesting that it's a great graphic. And I first saw it when I did seed school teacher training. Let's see. So it looks like it's the National Center for Genetic Resources Preservation. Chris, would you mind typing that in? National Center for Genetic Resources Preservation. And I pulled this graphic, it must have been at least 6 years ago.
All set, that's posted.
All right, great. Oh yeah, the nest in the background, work done by middle schoolers several years ago. Oh, thanks for doing that. Okay, National Center for Genetic Resources Preservation. And then the graphic I pulled, it was quite a few years ago. All right, it's 11 a.m. I want to respect everyone's time. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening to me talk for so long. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I hope you're able to attend some of the other sessions. And for the sessions that happen at the same time as mine, you can get access to the recordings. I know Bill McDorman gave a talk at the same time, and that's definitely worth listening to. He is the former head of the Rocky Mountain Seed Alliance. All right, have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much for taking time out to listen, and take care. Bye, everyone.